Welcome back, everyone. Before we get started, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the show.
Okay, shall we get into it?
Yeah, we are looking at all the programs and initiatives out there that help support small businesses.
Especially in rural areas.
Yeah, we've got a bunch of cool source material on this, some congressional testimony,
Oh, yeah?
some reports that are focusing on rural businesses and business support,
Hmm.
and some real expert insights on this, too.
It's really important that we're talking about this.
Yeah,
Small businesses, especially those in rural areas, face some pretty unique challenges.
definitely.
And they're so vital to our economy.
One of the sources we looked at, the Senate hearing, said that there are over 4 million rural small businesses in the U.S.
Really?
Yeah, and they employ a huge portion of rural employees, over 56%.
That's a big number, so we need to figure out how to help them.
Exactly. So should we jump into the funding programs?
Yeah, let's take a look.
Because that's a big one, right?
Definitely. One that's really important is the USDA's Rural Energy for America program. Yeah, REAT. And it helps businesses make the switch to renewable energy and improve energy efficiency.
That's huge these days.
It is. And the Inflation Reduction Act really changed the game for REAP. It doubled the federal match and the maximum grant amounts.
So now businesses can get up to a 50% match.
Exactly.
Uh,
Up to $1 million for renewable energy systems and $500,000 for efficiency upgrades.
That's a lot of money.
That's a good chunk of change. And we've got a great example from the sources.
Oh, yeah.
Candia First Stop in New Hampshire.
Okay.
They got an $838,000 REAP grant to install solar panels, and they think they're going to save over $133,000 each year.
On electricity.
Yeah, on their electricity costs.
That's impressive.
Isn't that something? REAP can really help make businesses more competitive.
For sure. And resilient.
REAP isn't the only funding source, though. There's also the SBA.
With their loan programs.
Exactly. They've got direct lending and disaster recovery options.
True, but one expert brought up a potential issue with SBA loans, at least when it comes to farmers.
Oh.
Yeah, they might not be so easy to access,
Yeah.
which is a big deal, especially with the economy being a little unpredictable.
And when you think about natural disasters, that can really hurt farms.
Totally,
Yeah.
which makes community banks even more important.
Yeah, they're super important.
They often have more flexibility and really understand the needs of their communities.
They do, especially when it comes to disaster recovery.
We saw this great example from the 2008 Iowa floods. The community bank stepped in and gave out 50 loans
Wow.
to businesses that were hit by the disaster, and guess what?
What?
All of those loans were repaid,
Oh, that's fantastic.
which shows how important community banks are, that trust of the community is huge.
Speaking of funding programs, our sources mention the Community Development Finance Authority,
The CDFA.
the CDFA. They actually offer grants that cover a big chunk of audit costs, up to 75%, with a cap at $6,000.
Okay.
And a lot of times audits are required to get REAP's energy efficiency funding.
It's like a grant to get a grant.
Exactly.
I like it.
But it's a lot to take in. I mean, all these different programs, the applications, the regulations,
Yeah, it can feel overwhelming for sure.
especially if you're a small business owner who's already super busy.
Absolutely. So that's where technical assistance comes in, right?
Exactly.
To kind of help guide you through the process.
Yeah.
And I thought the Energy Circuit Rider program was pretty cool.
Yeah, they provide like on-the-ground support, walking people through the process of finding funding and accessing REAP.
Yeah. Especially helpful for rural businesses.
Definitely. And then there's Clean Energy New Hampshire, or CE&H.
Okay.
They provide similar technical assistance. And actually, there's this great example of what they do.
Oh, tell me about it.
They helped a business owner, Zachary Luce, convert an old church into an office and beer garden.
Yeah.
And they're completely solar and geothermal powered.
That's awesome.
It's a really cool story.
It is.
And it shows how much these programs can do, especially in rural communities.
And what about the small business development centers?
The SBDCs, oh yeah, they do a ton. Business plans, loans, even exporting help.
They've got a special program, the New Hampshire Export Accelerator, helping businesses export all over the world.
Maybe one of our listeners will be the next big exporter.
It could happen. But with all these programs, there are still some challenges, right?
Of course.
Like figuring out which one is right for you.
Exactly. And sometimes things don't run as smoothly as they could.
Yeah, all the experts we read agreed that navigating all these different programs and agencies can be a real pain.
It's tough.
It definitely needs to be simpler.
Agreed. But the good news is the SBA and USDA are trying to fix that.
Oh, yeah.
They signed this memorandum of understanding to get everyone on the same page and make sure there aren't any gaps in support.
That's great.
It is. They're even doing Path to Prosperity workshops to connect businesses with all the right resources.
That's smart.
Right. It's all about working together. But there are other challenges, too, things that affect all these programs, like broadband access.
Oh, yeah, that's huge, especially for rural businesses.
Huge. It could be a game changer, and some people think it should even be a utility at this point.
I've heard that too.
Ugh.
And then disaster recovery, that's a big one.
Definitely. And farmers often have to deal with different rules, which can be a nightmare during a disaster.
Our sources brought up some issues from the recent disasters in Iowa where farmers were getting different information from different agencies.
Really?
Yeah, and loan processing took forever.
Oh, man, that's tough.
It is. It shows that agencies like FEMA and the SBA need to work better together, especially in those emergency situations.
Absolutely. And then there's the issue of all the regulations.
Oh, yeah. Every small business owner I know complains about that.
It's a lot. And some experts think all those regulations can really hurt businesses, especially in rural areas.
It's a tricky balance. You need regulations, but you don't want to stifle growth.
Exactly. And we can't forget about inflation. It's been hitting everyone hard, especially small businesses.
Yeah, those operating costs are going up and up.
And that's where good disaster recovery programs are so important, because insurance doesn't always cover everything these days.
No, definitely not. So knowing that it's a pain to deal with all these different programs, what can we do to make things easier?
Well, one expert had an interesting idea. They said that the SBA's loan process is way more streamlined than the USDA's.
Interesting.
The USDA process is much more manual with a lot of layers of review.
Okay.
So they suggested doing something like the SBA's preferred lender program for USDA loans, too.
To speed things up.
Yeah, and potentially save some money, too.
That makes sense. But we're talking about big differences in funding here.
Oh, yeah, billions of dollars.
Between the SBA and the USDA's B&I program.
Exactly. And there are a lot more people who need B&I funding than there is money to go around.
So even if the process was better, there still might not be enough to help everyone.
Unfortunately not.
Well, besides more funding, what else can we do?
Well, there's a pretty simple solution that everyone seems to agree on. Education.
Education.
Yeah, the SBA and USDA should have these regular educational sessions all over the country.
I like that.
It could be webinars or in-person workshops.
Right.
Just a chance for business owners to actually talk to experts and learn about what resources are out there.
That's a great idea. I mean, our listeners could look for those right now and get a head start.
Exactly. So it's clear that supporting rural small businesses takes more than just money.
For sure.
We need to understand the challenges they face, streamline how they can access resources,
Yeah.
and really work together to create an environment where they can be successful.
It all comes down to collaboration, right?
Absolutely.
We need to make sure these businesses not only survive, but really thrive and help their communities thrive too.
Definitely, because when rural small businesses succeed, everyone benefits.
I completely agree.
So what do you think? What stood out to you the most from all this?
Well, there's so many great programs out there,
There are.
but it's also about empowering small business owners with the knowledge they need to navigate it all.
That's a key part of it, because ultimately we want to see these businesses flourish and help their communities grow.
Exactly.
You know, one thing that really came up in that Senate hearing was how strong rural small businesses are.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they actually have a higher survival rate over 5 years than urban businesses.
Ah, that's surprising.
Right. With all the challenges they face, you'd think it'd be the other way around.
Exactly. So what makes them so resilient?
Well, I think it's a few things. Strong community ties, they adapt well.
Makes sense.
And they often wear a lot of hats, you know? They have to be resourceful.
Definitely.
So it seems like the support systems, even though they're not perfect, are helping.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
It is. But we can always improve. So what else did we learn about what these rural entrepreneurs need? Well, one thing that came up a lot was the difficulty of finding qualified workers.
Oh, yeah, the worker shortage is everywhere these days.
It is, but it's especially tough in rural areas.
Because there might not be as many schools or training programs.
Right. One business owner even said he was having to hire retirees because it was so hard to find workers.
Wow, that's a pretty clear sign of a tight labor market.
It is. We need better workforce development in those communities.
That's tailored to their specific needs.
Exactly. It's not just about attracting new workers. It's about helping the people who already live there.
To get the skills they need.
Yeah, to upskill and retrain for the jobs that are available.
And those jobs are changing too, right?
Absolutely. With technology, even jobs like farming are becoming more high-tech.
So rural workers need access to the right training and resources to keep up.
Exactly. And that's where broadband comes in again.
It's not just for connecting with customers or suppliers,
Right. It's also for education and even remote work opportunities.
which could be a game changer for those communities.
It could. So we need to address workforce development, education, and infrastructure all together.
It's all connected.
It is. We
Yeah.
can't just focus on one piece.
No, we need to think about the bigger picture and how it all works together.
Right. We need solutions that create a cycle of growth and opportunity.
I also thought it was interesting how many of those rural business owners were so proactive.
Oh, yeah. They weren't waiting around for someone to help them.
No, they were going out and finding resources, connecting with organizations.
Like Zachary Luce.
Yeah, he was a great example.
He saw a need, and he went after it, found funding, connected with groups like CE&H.
That kind of spirit is what makes small businesses so great.
It is. It shows how important it is to have clear information available.
So businesses know what programs are out there and how to access them.
Exactly. And that's where those Path to Prosperity workshops could really help.
By bringing everyone together, the businesses, the agencies, the lenders,
Everyone in one place.
so entrepreneurs can find the right resources and support.
It's all about collaboration.
Definitely. But speaking of collaboration, it seems like there's room for improvement when it comes to how federal agencies work together.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, disaster recovery is a big one.
Yeah. We talk about how hard it can be for farmers to get SBA disaster loans.
But it's not just about eligibility.
Right.
It's about making sure agencies like FEMA, the SBA, and the USDA are all on the same page.
So everyone's getting the same information.
And the process is fast and efficient.
Especially during a disaster, businesses need help quickly.
They need accurate information, and they need those aid applications processed fast.
Absolutely. And our sources found some cases where businesses were getting conflicting information.
From different agencies.
Yeah, and there were huge delays in loan processing.
That just adds to the stress of dealing with a disaster.
Definitely. It seems like we need a more integrated approach to disaster recovery.
Like a single point of contact.
Yeah, or a streamlined system that guides businesses through the whole process.
So they know what to do and where to go for help.
It would require agencies to work together more closely.
Putting the needs of the businesses first.
Exactly. But that customer-centric mindset is important for all programs.
Not just disaster recovery.
It should be the foundation of everything we do to support small businesses.
We need to build relationships and empower businesses to succeed.
Absolutely. One thing that could help is simplifying all the applications and reporting requirements.
Oh yeah, those can be a nightmare.
They can. It takes a lot of time and expertise to navigate all those forms and regulations.
Which most small business owners just don't have.
They're busy running their businesses, so we need to make it easier for them to get the help they need.
And we talked about the differences between SBA and USDA loans.
In terms of funding and processing,
Right. But maybe we need to think even bigger.
about a whole new way to support small businesses.
Yeah, a system that's more flexible and recognizes the unique needs of different businesses.
Especially rural businesses that are dealing with things like limited broadband or a lack of skilled workers.
So it's about tailoring the support to each individual business.
Exactly. And it's not just about simplifying the process. It's about providing the right kind of help at the right time.
Which is where those technical assistance programs come in.
Like the energy circuit riders and CE&H.
They offer that personalized guidance.
They help with funding, but also with making decisions about energy efficiency, renewable energy, all that.
And everyone seems to agree that those programs are underfunded.
Way underfunded. They make a huge difference.
By connecting businesses with the resources they need,
Exactly. Investing in technical assistance has a huge impact.
it helps businesses get funding, but it also empowers them to make changes that save them money and make them more resilient.
And ultimately, that creates a stronger rural economy.
It's a ripple effect, right?
It is. When one small business succeeds, the whole community benefits.
Especially in rural areas where businesses are so interconnected.
They are. Supporting a small business in a rural town isn't just about creating jobs.
It's about supporting the whole community
Exactly. It's about sustaining a way of life.
and making sure those communities have what they need to thrive.
And we can't forget how much rural small businesses contribute to the country as a whole.
They're feeding us, coming up with new ideas in agriculture, renewable energy,
They're often leading the way on the big challenges we face.
like climate change and economic inequality.
By supporting them, we're investing in a better future for everyone.
It's not just about their success, it's about all of us.
It is. It's about creating a more resilient, sustainable, and equitable future for all Americans. We've been talking a lot about federal programs, but it's important to remember that states and local communities play a big role too.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like what kinds of things?
Well, for example, Iowa has this program called the Disaster Recovery Farm Interest Program,
Okay.
and it basically helps farmers by reimbursing them for the interest they have to pay on disaster loans.
Oh, that's helpful.
It is. It shows how states can step in and fill the gaps when federal programs maybe aren't enough.
Especially when something like a natural disaster hits.
Exactly. They can react more quickly and address the specific needs of their communities.
We've also talked about how important community banks are for rural businesses,
Oh, they're crucial.
especially after those disasters.
Right. They often have better terms, and they can approve loans much faster than those big institutions.
Plus, they're really invested in their communities.
Definitely. There was this amazing story from the 2008 Iowa floods where these community banks were giving out loans to businesses that couldn't get help anywhere else.
Really?
Yeah, they were the ones who stepped up and helped those businesses get back on their feet.
That's awesome.
It really shows the power of community support.
So we've got the federal programs, the state and local initiatives, and then those community banks.
It's like a whole network of support.
And, of course, the resilience of the small business owners themselves,
Heart to heart of it all.
for sure. But we can always do better, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, what if we could somehow connect all those federal and state programs so it's easier for businesses to find what they need?
Oh, that would be amazing.
One central place where they can get all the information and guidance they need.
And it would streamline the application process, too.
Make it less of a headache for everyone.
Yeah. It wouldn't be easy to set up something like that, but it would make such a difference for those rural businesses.
It would. So we've covered a lot today about the challenges and opportunities facing rural small businesses.
We have.
And it's clear that there's no magic solution.
There isn't. Every business is different with its own needs.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
the support system needs to be flexible and adaptable.
And we have to be willing to try new things, to experiment and see what works.
And what doesn't?
Right. And then use what we learn to keep improving.
It's all about working together, isn't it?
It is. The policymakers, the agencies, the business owners, and the community leaders all have to be on the same page.
To create a system where these rural businesses can really thrive.
And when they thrive, the whole community thrives.
Exactly. You know, after doing all this research and talking to you, I'm feeling pretty optimistic.
Me too.
But I also know there's a lot of work to be done.
There is.
Supporting these businesses is so important for the future of the whole country.
It is. And it requires us to be committed to working together, to coming up with new ideas, and to really understanding the unique challenges these businesses face.
Well said. What about you? What stuck with you the most from all this?
You know what? It's that these small businesses are so resilient and innovative. They're really inspiring.
I agree.
So I'm really hopeful about the future of rural America.
Me too. Well, this has been an amazing conversation.
It has.
Thanks for joining me today.
My pleasure.
And to all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us on this journey exploring the world of rural small businesses. Don't forget to subscribe and like the show, and we'll see you next time for another's Deep Dive.